Please join me in welcoming Sallie Krawcheck to today's Diversity Forum.
Good morning. How are you? I am so tired. I did a planes, trains, and automobiles to get here yesterday. It is very difficult to get from Nashville at 6 p.m. after you finish a talk to Sacramento when your flight is canceled and the next one is delayed. But I told my assistant, nothing is keeping me from speaking to y'all this morning. I am honestly so honored to have been invited to speak about this truly important topic to this group. So, you heard a little bit of my background in the introduction, but I'm going to be honest with you. If you wake me up at 3 a.m. and sort of shake me and say, who are you? What do you do? I hope my first answer is, I'm a mother to my 2 wonderful children. But the next answer down at my core is going to be that I'm a research analyst. I was a research analyst at Sanford Bernstein covering Wall Street. It is a job I absolutely loved and adored. By the way, I'm a proud mother. My daughter started her summer internship last week, and at the end of the week, she said, Mom, I love research. I'm like, score, mini me. And I did the Bernstein Black Books, the thick ones. I don't know if they still do them. And I was the multiple regression queen. I would regress anything that walked. And I would come out and visit with y'all, and we would talk about, things like, are the investment banks growing, or is this upside volatility? Answer, upside volatility. But in every meeting, I would always get a question I could not answer. I couldn't bring my multiple regressions to. And that question, which is a intensely important question because it was asked at every meeting, was, is management any good? And so I would come out here and visit with y'all and go back and sort of start to pull things apart. And what could the drivers of great management teams be? Could it be how long they've been doing it? How long they've been doing it together? What schools they went to? What their majors were? I couldn't come up with anything. And so I would give an answer that always left me feeling uncomfortable, which is, gee, Jamie Dimon sounds smart. By the way, he is. He told me. And and while I would love to think that my ability to gauge a middle-aged white guy is better than most people's, if you met my ex-husband, you'd be like, no, Sallie, you can't do that. So I was left without a great answer. Let's hold that for a second. Let's fast forward through the crisis of 2007, 2008. I had the privilege, the opportunity to be at the leadership tables of Citigroup, which we all know essentially went bankrupt. Bank of America, ditto, during that crisis and in the recovery. And in the years after that, as I began to engage with the Obama administration, Capitol Hill, I actually realized, I think I actually have more different perspectives on what happened in the financial crisis to the large Wall Street banks than anybody else. I was a research analyst covering it. I was a CFO of Citigroup in the years pre-crisis. I ran these businesses. I think I've got more insight. No one else was at those 2 tables. All right. What caused it? Well, we all know the answers that we hear. It was leverage. Of course it was leverage. It was a point of view that securities that would trade in different ways, traded together down to zero. It was greed. Sure, it was greed. But none of those explanations that we continue to hear today, to me, captured what I saw. Because what I saw at those tables was groupthink. What I saw was the comfort of agreement. That super smart individuals looked at what was going on around them and quickly came to agreement after some amount of debate that the financial crisis, it wasn't going to be that bad. Here's the issue. This is it. When we went through the Russian crisis, this happened. When we went through the crisis of 2001, this happened, and came to agreement. Now, at the time of the financial crisis, I'm going to exaggerate for effect, but Citigroup's institutional trading business, which is where all that risk was essentially run by the Solomon Brothers training class of 1986. Essentially. These were individuals who worked together super well, who had gone to the same colleges, who'd gone to the same graduate schools, who grew up on the same trading desks, whose families vacationed together, who were friends, and who worked together seamlessly. This was a non-diverse group of individuals who had the same experiences, and therefore, while it felt like there were 8 of them, in fact, there was 1 or 2 of them. And as I began to think through what I had seen, it struck me that, of course, the antidote to groupthink is cognitive diversity. And cognitive diversity, of course, is driven in turn by diversity of background, education, experience, nationality, optimist, pessimist, orientation, skin color, and my personal favorite, gender. And so the research analyst in me began to dig. And you've heard about some of it this morning. What is it that drives a great management team? What is the answer to the question I couldn't answer when I was a research analyst? It's diversity. And so I looked into diversity of gender, and we've heard some of it, but diversity of gender is shown to exist with, I won't say cause, I won't say correlate, maybe it's coincidence, but to exist with higher returns on equity, not by a little, by a lot, lower risk, greater client engagement, greater employee engagement, and greater innovation. Greater innovation, huh? The power of diversity is so great. This was the one that did it for me. I was at something like this, and an individual, an academic, was on stage and said the power of diversity has been shown to be so great that diverse teams outperform smarter teams, higher IQ teams. Now, I grew up on Wall Street, where we worship intelligence, we worship the almighty brain, and there's something that makes you smarter than higher IQ. Sign me up. Sign me up. Diversity really is the answer to all of this. Now, some of you, most of you are like, yep, we got it. We're here, Sally. Some of you may be secretly thinking, I'm not sure I'm buying this. Maybe it just is a coincidence. It's a hell of a coincidence, right? Because we've seen research from McKinsey, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, right? So we've seen all this research. But maybe what will help, what helped me, is, as with many things in life, to use a college basketball analogy. Who here is a Duke basketball fan? All right, those guys are the worst. I went to UNC. I just wanted to know. I got to tell you, as we're in NBA, what do they say about Duke and UNC basketball? To hate like this is to be happy for forever. Anyway, so let's go to the good guys, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill basketball team. And let's say we all go down to the southern part of heaven, and there is a basketball team reunion, basketball player reunion. And so we're there, and we're like, you know what? We got all these great UNC basketball players. Let's pull together a team, and let's pull the very best players from the University of North Carolina history together and play some basketball. And so we pull the best together. Now, Michael Jordan is not there that day because he's Michael Jordan, but there is Marcus Page, and there is Phil Ford, and there is Kobe White, and there's Raymond Felton, and you get the point, right? There's Kenny Smith. And so we pull together our basketball team. Will this team win a national championship? No. Do you know why, sir?
They're all the stars.
No, they're all stars. Close, they are. No, they're all point guards. And the point guard, as we all know, is the most important player on the team. He or she is the one who calls the plays, interprets what the coach wants, bring the ball down the court. But you can't win a national championship with all point guards. You have to have someone who can muscle to the inside. These days, you have to have your three-point shooter. Put another way, the question that I find myself always asking, historically asking, when I put together my teams, which was, hey, head of HR, let's get the best person for the job. Ended up being the wrong directive. Because the best person for the job always ended up being someone who, was sort of a middle-aged, Caucasian, financial services background, bottle blonde, female. It was me. Right? I always sort of, that young lady has such promise, doesn't she? And so really the better question is not, can we pull together the best individuals for the team, but who is the best person to round out the team? If you've got a bunch of optimists, you better bring in a pessimist. If you have a bunch of folks who, were Ivy League math majors, if that's a thing, you better bring in someone with some marketing experience. You get the point. Well, anyway, so this is amazing, right? Because here we are with all of this research about what drives great business performance in the greatest capitalist society that has ever been. All this research about what you do to drive higher returns, higher stock prices, grow the economy. Oh, because by the way, the other great thing that happens when women are in senior roles and you have diverse teams is we get more money to women. And there is nothing bad that I can find that happens when women have more money. Right? The economy grows. We give more to political candidates, so we elect more moderate political candidates. We give more money to nonprofits as a percent of our wealth than gentlemen do. Our daughters make more money when we are in the workforce. Everything good happens. If you want to do a great thing, get more money to women because there's a higher return on everything. So all this good stuff, right? We have all this good stuff. Plus, we women have all been leaning in. I leaned in super hard. I knew my worth. I asked for the seat at the table. I asked for the raise. I marched. Actually, I'm to the point where I'll just march for anything these days. Just anything. So all this positive momentum. So look at the progress we've made on diversity. It's been amazing. Except it hasn't been. There are absolutely points of progress, and so much of it driven by your good work here. But we remain decades away from closing the gender board gap. The percent of Fortune 500 CEOs who are women is a paltry amount that goes up and down by a paltry amount every year. The gender pay gap is decades away from closing for white women, 100 plus years away for black women, and 200 plus years away for Latino women. My old industry, Wall Street, in the years after the financial crisis, that business, where 90% of traders were men, 86% of financial advisors are men, diversity went backwards. Who here, just a show of hands, intuitively believes that the financial crisis would have been worse if those trading floors, those mammoth trading floors, instead of being 90% white men, were 50% women, were 40 or 50% people of color? Raise your hand high. Who would think it would have been worse? Nobody. Nobody. And in fact, in addition to the research that tells us these great things happen with diversity, there's a ton of research that tells us that white men on trading floors tend to overtrust each other because they are similar. And the poor trading risk rises and falls with testosterone levels. By the way, I love middle-aged white men. I have been married to a couple of them. really amazing creatures. This is not against middle-aged white men, but it's fascinating to me that Wall Street, the quintessential capitalist industry, has found a way to reduce risk and increase returns, and diversity went backwards. That is how compelled we are to work with people like us. That is how embedded it is to go for the comfort of hiring the person who looks like us. That is how driven we are by the way we've all been socialized, that leaders are white males, that senior vice presidents are white males, that traders are white males. And we have not, as an industry or as a society, despite all the research, despite all the noise, despite all the activity, it just hasn't flowed through yet. An example of where these opportunities are being missed, Ellevest, a digital-first investment platform for women. The Wall Street firms, the big banks, startups, all know that women control on their own, call it $6-7 trillion of investable assets with their spouses, another 11. That we're going to inherit 70% of the $40 trillion of wealth transfer, that 90% of us manage our money on our own at some point in our lives, that women keep more than 70 cents out of every dollar in cash, which means the underinvestment versus men cost a typical professional woman doing well but not extraordinarily well hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of her life. For some women, it's million. They see this, but none of them have been able to capture it until Ellevest is. And in part, it's because they came with essentially an old-fashioned, dare, if I could, patriarchal view of what women need to invest. It's a marketing thing. Don't buy the shoes, invest in the market instead. Don't buy the new one, driving me crazy. Don't buy the latte, invest in the market and make $1 million. Like, on what planet does that math work? No planet. But we women have looked at an industry that looks back at us with 80 financial advisors, 86% white male, average age 58 to 60, and have ranked that industry 33 out of 33 of the industries that serve us. This is a huge business opportunity, and one that can transform our society if we can get more money in the hands of women. And Wall Street has glanced by it with initiatives that have patronized. We are the first to capture it. So it's not just a theoretical, hey, the ROE might be higher. There are actual business opportunities, which we're beginning to see women entrepreneurs begin to access. All right, what's going to work? Well, let me be controversial. Anything we're doing now, as companies, as CEOs of companies, unless we are one of very few, we got to throw most of it away. The women's diversity group that you've had for 20 years, it would have already worked if it was going to work. The mentoring program we hear about, it would have already worked if it was going to already work. All the noise and flapping at the companies where women are not making it through. All the excuses. I remember I was on Bloomberg TV once with a portfolio manager who said, we love women as employees. We have a hard time keeping them. And I turned to him, and I didn't mean to embarrass him, but I said, have you thought about promoting them? And his mouth dropped like, what a novel idea. I hadn't thought about that. And so we fall into these old, well, we'd love to keep women, but they're leaving, more flexibility and have babies. And the research shows on Wall Street, women are leaving for more money. The number one reason millennial women leave their job is not flexibility, it's more money. The number one reason women are not making it through in my old industry is because they're not being promoted. And so what I have found is the things that make this work is the CEO just decides to do it. Not that we're going to set this up in the pipeline and blah, blah. On Wall Street, there hadn't been a pipeline issue since 1987. When I started at Salomon Brothers in 1987, my analyst class was 40% female. It's not a matter of we put this in place and we see it work its way through. It's a matter of CEOs like Mark Benioff or Dan Schulman at PayPal or Ajay Banga at MasterCard going in and saying, I'm done. And we will make this happen. I had thought there was going to be another path. And I was really excited about it. And that other path is the young millennial women protesting, taking the bull by the horns, so to speak. The women at Nike who did the survey of their company and took it to the CEO. The women of Google who walked out. The women of the New York Times who got together and said, we need a better parental leave. And I felt really excited about that, versus us older women who, when a woman would accuse someone of sexual harassment, we looked away. But these young women are coming together on Twitter and social media to band together. And I've been excited about that. But 2 steps forward, 1 step back. The woman at Google just left, said she was being retaliated against. The woman who led the charge at Nike just left, said she was being retaliated against. Which brings me to you. Is I have always thought, what could change it on Wall Street? What could change it? A CEO getting it? What about more women on the board? Yes, maybe, sure. I've been on boards. It's a lot of work. Being the one who's sort of pounding on the diversity, if the CEO wasn't behind it, they could sort of razzle-dazzle you. Okay. But in a capitalist society, it's money that matters. And I've often thought, if the source of capital, the lifeblood of these companies, said, hey, Wall Street, hey, corporate America, this is important to us, for us to continue funding you, for us to continue putting our money into these risky Wall Street firms. We want risk reduced in a demonstrable way, and it is through diversity. I think that's the game changer. That's why I went crawling across the country last night to get here to speak to you. Because I gotta say, I think we've got to be brutally honest with ourselves. That despite the research, despite everything, what we're doing, they're incremental steps. But this is so important. It's so important to our economy. It's so important to our children. It's so important given the divisiveness that we have today. And you all, I was so thrilled when I heard this conference was sold out and they closed early because you all are the ones who can really drive change. So a pleasure to be here with you today. Thank you.